It seems like the most open space, this huge beach in this cove, and then as things become more and more weird and more threatening, and they can't leave, it becomes very claustrophobic for these individuals on this beach, and you can see them panicking and they're trying to get out. There's no doors to leave, and that suffocation the audience feels. And what used to be beautiful now becomes oppressive and dangerous. The water, which looks so beautiful at first, just becomes death.
I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little bit stitious, and M. Night Shyamalan's films always offer up some intriguing fiction to satiate my stitious predilections. In his newest flick, Shyamalan takes the age-old fear of growing up too quickly and runs with it like a madman. But instead of the slow saga of adulthood, Old presents us with something terrifying. An inescapable beach that speeds up the aging of cells, forcing bodies to age a year in just 30 minutes. The film opens with and follows the Kappa family, consisting of Gael Garcia Bernal's Guy, a risk analyst, Vicky Krieps' Priska, a museum curator, and their two young children, Maddox and Trent. Despite the premise revolving around the adult fear of aging, the film is propelled by the innocence of children. It's no surprise then that much of the film is shown to us from the perspective of these two kids who are forced to grow a lifetime over a day. Looking to unwind, the family arrive at an amazing resort where Trent meets with the hotel manager's nephew, Idlib. Instead of organic conversations of holiday goers, 6-year-old Trent tells the kid that they should get a mortgage and be neighbors in the future, as well as running up to characters that will become central to the story and asking them what their name and occupation is. You know, as normal kids do. This continues when his parents discuss how they're about to separate following Priska's cancer diagnosis, and how they wanted to keep this from the children so that they could enjoy their last holiday as a family. They also bring up how she found the place randomly online. I mean, all of these things are important pieces of information, delivered with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Because of this, none of the characters feel like they're real people having normal conversations that are slowly crafting character. They're just devices to dump plot so that we know what's going on every step of the way. After being given a complimentary cocktail courtesy of the hotel, the Kappas are offered a once-in-a-lifetime experience to go to a secluded part of the island. Arriving on the beach with another family consisting of Rufus Sewell's Charles, a surgeon, his wife Crystal, their daughter Cara, and Charles's mother Agnes, both groups bump into the standoffish rapper Brendan, aka Mid-Size Sedan. Enclosed by a rocky precipice, everyone soaks in the rays of relaxation until a drowned body belonging to Brendan's companion, who swam out the previous night, appears in the water. While everyone is deciding what to do with the body and Brendan, who they all suspect may be involved in her death, the children quickly age whilst talking to newcomers psychologist Patricia and her husband Jaron, a nurse. Offering to call for help, Jaron attempts to head back through the rocks and blacks out before waking up on the beach, marking escape impossible. Things then begin to ramp up, with Agnes reporting chest pains and dying soon after, followed by her dog, causing Charles to fly off the handle and attack Brendan, whose wounds heal up in a flash. Placing Trent's new biological age at around 11, they begin theorizing that the beach is causing their cells to age at a ridiculously fast rate. In discussion, it's also revealed that at least one from each group was suffering from a terminal illness. Priska with cancer, Charles with schizophrenia, Crystal with hypocalcemia, Patricia with epilepsy, and Brendan with haemophilia, explaining his constant nosebleeds and their collective worsening conditions. With Priska's cancer growth spinning out of control, they decide to perform an impromptu surgery to remove the melon-sized mass, involving the group literally holding her stomach open to prevent it from quickly healing shut. Meanwhile, Trent and Cara, now teenagers, get intimate in the tent, and Cara soon emerges with a bulging pregnant belly. With time moving at the rate of a year every 30 minutes, the baby is born in a flash, but dies after being set down for a second. This is nightmare fuel for obvious reasons, but the film doesn't take the time to reconcile the fact that, despite their bodies aging rapidly, their minds had only experienced a couple of hours, meaning we're technically still watching characters with the mental development of 6-year-olds. M. Night tries to explain his rationale in the behind the scenes.
As your body's growing, the matrix of your mind is changing as well. So you are a 40-year-old man. You're taking in the situation as a 40-year-old man takes in the complexity of the way you're sitting and the way you looked at your watch. I'm catching all of that. Whereas if I was 12, I wouldn't catch that you glanced at your watch or you actually a little bit, there's something disingenuous about what you just said. But at 40, you can feel it. You can feel those colors and the complexity. You don't have the life experience. So there's that gap in the life experience, but the matrix and how you're taking in the world is complex and subtle.
But his explanation left me even more confused. With no hope for an escape, Charles's condition worsens and he murders Brendan. Jaren attempts to swim out to safety only to drown. Kara falls to her death attempting to climb over the rocks. Patricia dies from an intense epileptic fit. And Crystal, ashamed by her aging looks and worsening calcium deficiency, mangles her body in a nearby cave in what is probably the most horrifying moment in the film. After fending off an attack from Charles and now entering into the last moments of their lives, Guy and Priska make amends for their past mistakes and warmly embrace before dying of old age. Left alone, the now middle-aged Maddox and Trent question whether they should continue looking for a way out. Trent insists that they should build a sandcastle first, and as they reminisce, they draw their attention to a coded message that the manager's nephew had given the young Trent, explaining that his uncle didn't like the coral reef on the island. Using this, the pair swim out through a large collection of coral that counteracts the island's aging process and enables a gentle reacclimation to normal time. Fittingly, Old is based on the graphic novel Sandcastle by Pierre Oscar Levy and Frederick Peters, but unlike the source material, Old doesn't finish with the scene of the two adult children making a sandcastle. Instead, cutting to the cliffs, we find the driver who dropped them off looking through cameras and other recording equipment. Notifying the hotel that all the subjects had died, we finally get M. Night's signature twist. While the beach was indeed mystical, the entire sequence of events was masterminded by scientists who took advantage of the location to fast forward their clinical trials, which came in the form of cocktails given to 73 groups of visitors that were selected over the years. And while most of the experiments failed, every now and then they stumbled onto a breakthrough, as was the case with Patricia, who lived for almost 2 decades of compressed time without a seizure. As the researchers usher a new group of test subjects, they're interrupted by Trent and Maddox, who'd somehow convinced an off-duty police officer of their crazy story. Instead of the film ending here, we're then transported to a military helicopter, removing all the existential angst and mystery of the source material, in favor of needless explanations and an ending where Trent and Maddox, and us by association, are literally told that the bad guys are not going to be able to continue doing bad things to good people. There's heaps to love about Old. The music is unnerving and hauntingly beautiful, the build-up is thrilling, the cinematography transforms paradise into a claustrophobic prison from hell. But instead of forcing the audience to bask in the horror, we're often pulled away from the most gripping moment we'd witnessed in 10 minutes. This only undercuts the work of the terrific cast who deliver some amazing performances, despite being hamstrung by most of what they say being exposition, and the fact that the actors only had 3 hours to read the entire script.
The fact that I got to read Knight's script was so exciting because we had like 3 hours to read it. You know, he's very protective. And so for me, at a certain point, it didn't even matter what the script was. Knight is one of my big heroes, and I was, you know, just the excitement of just opening it up and having only 3 hours to read it felt like Mission Impossible or something.
The dialogue is often clunky, and the script desperately tries to explain its themes and plot overtly.
This was the most difficult movie to shoot. You know, we were literally at the mercy of nature. Difficult to shoot on sand. It's the heat. You're out there for 12 to 15 hours. The tide comes up twice a day, and the beach just disappears.
Not only was the film made during a pandemic, but the cast and crew had to contend with hurricanes that kept consuming the beach and destroying their artificial walls.
You have to shoot the beginning of the script in the morning, and the middle of the script in the middle of the day, and the end of the script at the end of the day. Every day. This
meant that instead of indulging in reshoots, most of their time was taken up with setting up for the next shot, before nature halted everything. While it's easy to view the ending as pessimistic or downright depressing, I think that Old's ultimate philosophy of life isn't so bleak. For me, this was highlighted with Maddox and Trent, now in their 50s, choosing to enjoy the frivolous and joyful act of playing in the sand, rather than wasting time trying to fight aging. Shyamalan even chimed in on this during his interviews, explaining that Old is definitely about the dysfunctional relationship to time that we all have. You see some characters unable to navigate this, and then some characters that can, and through doing so, find peace.
People might think that they are on one side, but they're driven by forces underneath them that you don't know what you secretly believe sometimes. People do not know. They might think they're on the side of good, but they might have impulses that are subterranean, that are different. And sometimes these things come out in madness.
What I found intriguing is the similarities Old shares with Louis Buñuel's 1962 film, The Exterminating Angel, about a group of rich people that end up trapped in a room, and of course Vincenzo Natali's Cube, about strangers that wake up ensnared in a horrific structure. Much like Old, they're layered with allegories about existence and human bonds through a surrealist lens. But unlike Old, they refuse to spoon-feed the audience, leaving an air of ambiguity that forces us to really consider the meaning and significance significance of the ending. For me, if Old had simply ended with Trent and Maddox building the sandcastle, we would have had a successful adaptation and a moving yet unsettling film ripe with meaning. But instead of the meaningful contemplation of time and old age that M. Night spent the entire film developing, we're left thinking about unethical experimentation, demystifying the intrigue of the beach in a way that doesn't really recontextualize the preceding hour and a half in a profound way.